Regarding the MQB pendulum mount, at what point do you need to replace the pucks versus just doing the inserts? I mean, there's no point you need to do anything. The stock puck, works fine. It's just softer. So if you do the Dogbone arm and the inserts, and you still want more stiffness and control, then you can swap out to our density version. That's it. But it's completely up to you. So there's a question: is there a point where I should step up from your Dogbone plus inserts to include street sport, track sport engine mounts? Um, yeah, I mean, generally we recommend that for any hybrid. Once you're into hybrid
Yeah.
power levels, definitely stage two E85. I would strongly recommend street sport mounts. You are going to feel some NVH, but the stock mounts are just so overwhelmed at that power level. And something really bad can happen if you break the stock mount. It can take out your
What,
just
your
like that.
microphone? Yeah.
It can take out the stock transmission mounting point as well. And once that happens, it can damage the case of your DSG. So you could be into a big repair at that point. So our street sport mounts are very popular for the Daza. Uh, Honestly, you could run them on a stock car if you wanted. They really lock down the engine and drivetrain, but you will experience some more NVH. There's going to be a trade off. Track sport mounts will rattle your teeth out. They're still not solid, but they use very hard rubber mounts inside them. But the street sport stuff I found to not be too bad. There is kind of a resonance, I don't know, around 3,000 RPM or something. So once you kind of come up on that, you'll feel more NVH coming up to it, and then it'll kind of max out and then go away. So as long as if you're cruising, you stay kind of above or below that RPM point, you'll be fine. But I drove our TTRS all the way to Las Vegas with them in it and back, and it was fine.
Yeah.
At what power level are inserts not a sufficient upgrade? It's hard to say. It's not necessarily related to power level. A lot of it's related to how you're using it. So really hard launches
Yeah.
really stress the drivetrain mounts. I mean, when you do a hard launch, basically your engine and transmission want to rip out of the car. So your mounts are now what's holding in it. The more things move, the more force and pressure there is. So it's kind of like doing a punch from this far versus this far. The force can increase. So if your engine and transmission can move 1 inch each way, as that kind of moves 1 inch, there can be a lot of momentum and energy that builds up, and then your mounts have to stop that.
Yeah, it's a much bigger shock.
Yeah.
When it gets to the end of that travel.
And that's when you see things start breaking. Of course, the more torque and power you're producing, the higher those forces get. But if you just drive around really gingerly and you kind of roll on and off the throttle really carefully, you're not going to necessarily see the same kind of issues. So it's definitely, once you start getting into kind of stage one, stage two E85 tuning power levels, and then with launching, at that point you really want to, I'd say, throw our whole mount catalog at the car. Yeah, it's a really good idea. For 700 horsepower hybrid turbo stock engine, is your Dogbone mount a sufficient enough upgrade with stock engine mounts? I would say no. Again, you can break the factory transmission mount, and that's a relatively common failure. And when that breaks, it typically does more damage. People are reporting that the poly puck Dogbone upgrades have less NVH in your billet insert and arm combo. Why would that be?
I have no idea.
There's no.
I haven't yet seen a poly puck, especially the whole puck, that has been less NVH than the rubber isolation.
Poly is not a very good material for engine mounts. The reason it gets used is because it's easy to manufacture by the aftermarket. So you won't see a Ferrari, a Lamborghini, a Porsche, a Koenigsegg in F1. They don't use poly anywhere. Everything's rubber mounts. Rubber is the best mounting material for engine and drivetrain use, and the reason is rubber can compress and it can also operate under tension. The same reason you don't make rubber bands out of polyurethane. Also, polyurethane is very prone to failure. It's not durable in the automotive environment. It does not deal well with heat or oils and chemicals. In fact, you can make poly mounts yourself in your kitchen. You can put it on the stovetop and you can melt the poly. So that the temperatures that a lot of engine compartments experience is about the same as what melts poly. So this is why there was a company ECE that's now gone under. Everybody jumped on, or not everyone, a bunch of people jumped on their poly mounts, and those mounts began failing after about 1 to 2 years. I've been, in this industry for almost 30 years, and I've seen every poly mount that ever came on the market fail. The reason companies make things out of poly is because it's cheap and easy. You can melt it again in your kitchen. You can make a little, go to Tab Plastics. You can make a little silicone mold, and you can start making your own poly mounts yourself. Kind of like you make fishing boards. It's not the right material. So our rubber mount products are vulcanized in a factory, a manufacturing factory with many millions of dollars, of tens of millions of dollars of furnaces and injection molding equipment. It's very expensive. But once that rubber is vulcanized to metal substrate, it can then compress and operate under tension. It's a great material. Rubber is also better at dampening vibrations. Poly is not the best at dampening vibrations.
Yeah, if you get to a poly that does adequately absorb those vibrations, it will generally pack out and just basically take a shape and give you gaps and a bunch of play in that mount.
And someone's asking, will inserts bend at stage 2 power levels with stock engine mounts? Some bending in inserts is okay, and yes, any insert you will see, any Dogbone insert will bend a little bit. The point of an insert is not that it stays straight like it came out of the package. The inserts fill a void. So they go inside the voids in the mount and they simply fill that space. If the mount bends a little bit, it's totally fine. If you ever experience bending with one of our inserts that you feel is hurting the product's use in some way, please contact us. We'll probably be happy to replace it. And the new one will get a slight bend in it just as well. The APR went on there and made to copy ours and make it out of stainless steel. Guess what? Those bend too. There's actually no problem with bending. There was like a couple cases where somebody really ramped on them, and the base of our insert was thinner, and so we had like 2 break. I mean, we're talking us like tens of thousands sold. Yes, yes, that was before we had the upper. So if you use our lower and upper like you're supposed to, there will be very minimal bending, and it's totally fine. It's okay. It's supposed to do that a little bit. Again, the way the insert works is by filling the void. So unless it bends so much and breaks that it falls out of the void, it's still doing its thing. It's working. Any other? Yes, and then our billet inserts, even after slight bending, are infinitely more reliable than poly. You will never see our aluminum inserts wear out or fail. But these poly mounts, they will actually crumble and fall out. So ECE had this problem. Whatever new company that came along is doing poly mounts, they're going to have the same problem. It's not a reliable long-term solution. So all we can do is sit back and watch people keep making the same mistakes over and over again. But we've had the best solution for a long time, and we will continue to offer it. And we sell a lot of our Dogbone inserts, of our Dogbone arms, of our press-in rubber pucks. We sell. These are some of our top-selling products. There are a lot of these in the field. We have minimal warranty issues with them. I mean, way below any kind of threshold that would ever be considered. They're extremely reliable products. All right.
So it says, I believe there's a diagram of the insert pair not bending. I think you're confusing the cutaway video we did that shows how that upper mount or that upper insert affects the basically the twisting action on that pendulum mount as it comes under lane. That doesn't have anything to do with the bottom insert tabs taking the shape a little bit.
Kind of out of time. Should we keep going? There's a lot of questions.
These last 2 right here.
Which ones? And would you still recommend a Dogbone insert for DSG vehicles? I'm hearing about more NVH from those transmissions. Yes, absolutely. Most of the inserts we sell go into DSG transmissions. DSGs inherently have more vibrations than automatic transmissions. And so you will experience some NVH in reverse. We've actually had people complain about having too much NVH when they go into reverse and they're backing up. They feel too much NVH. I think that's pretty manageable for most people.
Yeah.
And then if you are sitting at a stop, and as you begin to accelerate, as the DSG clutches engage, there can be a little bit of NVH there as well.
That really depends on your exact DSG and how that clutch adaptions are.
For me, these are completely minimal, and they're far outweighed by the benefits while you're driving of the driving experience of installing these inserts and using them. If you ever purchase anything from us and the NVH is unacceptable, let us know and you can return it or whatever. But again, we sell thousands and thousands of these to happy customers. And I think the people that complain about NVH are very, very rare, few and far in between.